as this has been one of the biggest questions that we've seen coming through at Autoscale. Um, so to set the context for today, the goal for this session is to be less of a keynote presentation, but more of a working session. Want to show you guys how we build things here at Autoscale, but also how to set up an AI system when starting from scratch. And after having worked on this for quite a few years now, I can show you guys the process that we follow. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. I'll start with who I am. So quick 30 seconds on me. My name is Keshav Mohabir. I'm the AI augmentation lead at Autoscale. Some of you have come across me already in the technical aspects of the ShiftAI program and in different pieces of Autoscale. But what I do here at AOS is build our AI systems internally, but also some of the tools that we have for our program. So we have something called Founders Workbench, where we use a bunch of different custom GPTs that support the frameworks and the systems that we use in Autoscale. So I've also worked with a bunch of founders on setting up AI within their companies and how to integrate AI into a pre-existing business in order to, boost workflows, automate tasks, and connect to data and so on. So the goal for today is to give you guys a practical framework that you can use for yourself. To identify where AI can be very beneficial. And then second, show you how I would set up one from scratch to quickly get a project going. So the agenda for today covers four things. First, I want to just set some of the context around where AI has evolved and the landscape shift. Second, we'll dive into some of the data that we've been measuring with our AI readiness surveys at Art of Scale. So far, we've interviewed over 100 companies, and from that data, we can see how AI is evolving as well as where people are placed. Third, we'll dive into the diagnostic framework that you can take today and start using. This will help you work out where AI can provide the most value in your business. And fourth, we'll go through a live build. Um, we also may have a bonus guest at the end, depending on how quickly we get through the build. So let's look out for that. So context-wise, what has happened in AI over the last few years? The range of our experience has evolved from the initial usage of things like ChatGPT. This was when AI was first launched and it kind of became quite ubiquitous and widespread. We all started using ChatGPT and it became a kind of advanced Google, almost a super boosted calculator to get us answers quickly. Um, but this has now changed, where it's evolving from just being a chat tool or an advanced Google that can perform better question and answers, but now it's actually a AI has the ability to work on your behalf. And not only does it have the ability to co-work with you, it has the ability to work on its own in an automated fashion. So this has meant that the gap between AI readiness is now less about fluency and the knowledge of AI and the tools, and it's now having to do with the architecture of how do you bring AI into your business. And this leads to things like how do you connect your current data and systems into AI tools? For example, if you use Notion or Monday.com or Zoho, how do you get AI talking to those same boards or projects that you've used in the past? And how do you get it to perform the same tasks that we have people on the team doing? So, for example, weekly updates or risk logs and so on. So it's really about integrating our existing projects into AI, But also, once you start bringing AI into your company, you have to start treating it almost as a new employee. So this means starting to think about AI onboarding. Are there constant documents that we can share with AI that set up our company context so people, the new agents that work in our business understand who we are, where we're from, how we work, who the team members are. So there's company context, but all and data and systems. And the third is how do we get the new AI that's now onboarded ready to work with everyone else? So this means getting involved into the working rhythms and processes that's within the company. So this shows that it's quite a structural shift from, okay, what's the best AI model out there, or what's the best AI image generator, and um, what tool do I use, to now structurally changing spaces within our business so that you can bring in any AI, because the AI agents will be performing work on our behalf. This also means that our businesses start to change to become human plus AI augmented and not just human first. Uh, this allows us to really become more productive with AI. Um, but the way we look at it is you can start to use these computational and intelligence engines to handle almost the meaningless work that's quite repetitive. So there's a bunch of knowledge work like creating reports, and we all tend to have quarterly meetings or monthly meetings that we just checking in with each other. These are perfect opportunities for AI to step in and take over a repetitive task so that the human that's working with it, or the person that's working with it, can start to focus their attention on more of the thinking and strategy and design and less about execution. And so it really means you spend less time clicking around your screen trying to work out how PowerPoint works, or, a company launches a new Monday.com board and now we have to get up to speed with that. Whereas the AI can just handle the technical execution part of it, but your thinking and process still stays human. And the question around the architecture is, how do we start bringing that same level of understanding to these AI agents that work with us? And so that means almost treating them like interns. And this has been the best analogy that I've used to share with founders on our programs is, if you treat an AI agent like a new joiner on your team, and the best example of this is you would send a new joiner an email with a bunch of files attached and say, get up to speed. That's the best way to start with an AI bot. And that gives it enough context of what it needs to do and the problem it's trying to solve so that it can go ahead. And it's almost a sign of how much context we've shared or how much of an understanding we built with AI, when you measure asking it to do a task and seeing that it didn't do it super correctly. It's almost a sign that you could go back and adjust how we asked. Maybe we needed to give more context. Maybe we needed to set more direction to ensure that we get the output that we wanted. So treating them like really smart graduates, but graduates that have just made it into the business, is the best way to handle AI and the agents. And this means now we've got to move away from thinking about what are the tools we need to use, and more how do we set up the systems in our company to bring them in. And that becomes architectural. So the three levels that AI has evolved through, you're starting to feel and see in the world now. It's used to be just a tool where you could prompt it and it responded. These were our Claude, Google Gemini, ChatGPT, the first experiences that we had, where they were just something that could do an advanced Google. And we've noticed most people are stuck at this spot. So they haven't really understood the full value of AI. So you start to get feedback around things like, well, I don't really see how smart it is. It seems the same as Google. Or I asked it to read, um, to scan these words off a slide and it got one of the words wrong. So it doesn't seem like it's that valuable to me. And a lot of the time, this is because people are still using it as just a level two Google, or they haven't given enough context to it to really bring the value out of AI. Second is using it as an assistant. So this is when we start to use AI as a co-worker with us. So for example, you may have asked it to work on this quarterly presentation for you. And together you'll discuss the storyline. You'll talk about what the slides need to look like. You may discuss what data needs to go in, what insights we have to present on the day. For example, I co-worked with AI to create this presentation that we're in at the moment. And it can go forth and do research on your behalf that may have taken you time. It'll be able to design the slides according to your company template much faster than you could have put it together yourself. And so this becomes the next highest leverage point of AI is using it as this co-worker. But the third, and this is where the most experimental part of AI is, but also the most advanced usage is using AI as agents. And if we start to look at the frontier companies like OpenAI, XAI, Google, the first space that they started playing with AI agents was for coding. And this was purely a utility reason. And it's because they are using code to improve the AI. So if you can get AI to do the code, then you have created a self-improvement cycle for the AI. And so that's why the first task that they've been trying to tackle was, can we get AI to do coding on its own, where we just set a direction and what we're expecting as output, and it's able to run, check its work, and provide, human-like feedback to you as a manager or boss. And this has been now successfully achieved. And I think we've far crossed the line in AI as a coding agent and a master of coding agents. The most recent glaring example of this is something called Claude Mythos, which some of you may have heard about in lead up to this, thanks to the news cycles around it. But this is a highly advanced version of Claude that hasn't been released to the public yet. And when they tested it on its ability to pick up vulnerabilities in old code bases and almost widespread code bases that a lot of our tools and software rely on, maybe our banks, it was able to pick up vulnerabilities and ways to hack them, which are called zero-day hacks, uh, almost immediately. And this created such alarm amongst the Anthropic team that they then announced to partner with big companies around the world like Microsoft and Google, etc., to go and fix all the holes in their code bases using this technology before it can be released to the public. So that's the level of self-improvement and quality that can be reached when AI is focused on one thing. Um, Now that kind of coding has been mastered, the next space to look at is knowledge work. And this means, can we get agents to handle the things that a lot of you and I deal with in a day-to-day? So interacting with our databases and tools like Monday, like Notion, like Zoho, can it do the weekly reports? Can it do analytics? Can it make strategic decisions? And this is the gap that now most of the AI agent experimentation is in, which is what we're going to be diving into today. Um, to talk about how do we set up AI agents in knowledge work. Moving on. So what does our data say? From the 100 participants that have completed the AI readiness assessment, most of the founders we've seen are stuck at very low readiness. Despite having moved up on the fluency curve, a lot of founders are still stuck behind, not fully enabling, becoming AI enabled. So sorry, using AI across all their tools, as well as fully leveraging AI, which means getting AI to handle their most time consuming or valuable tasks, so that they can achieve more of that. Um, Above 90% of founders we've seen who are stuck at the tool level. So this corroborates with what I was saying earlier, that we haven't moved beyond just using AI as an advanced Google. It's still stuck at we haven't moved beyond an advanced Google. So it's almost like we have a really smart calculator in our pocket, but we haven't fully realized that this is a robotic intern that can do everything on our behalf. Um, on a team level, we've also seen that the enablement hasn't spread across. A lot of companies are still at experimentation. People are starting to use AI, talk about it, think about it, but it hasn't reached formalized levels where it can be implemented in a business. There's proper governance and guardrails around how do we use it, and here's the tools we use, here's how we handle our data, here's how we deal with issues if something arises with AI. Um, those are very, very early levels, which is almost causing people to either you do shadow AI, which is using AI and being quiet about it, or being too fearful to use AI. Um, but on the positive side, we have noticed from people who've participated in our programs or even attended boot camps or have learned some of the basic skills like you pick up today, there has been improvement and uplift amongst those members. So this shows that already within sometimes 2 months, but a lot of the times after about 90 days, there's meaningful progress in people's ability to use AI, but also the ability to incorporate it into their business and have it start creating value on their behalf. And so this is beyond getting it to just rewrite your emails and translate documents for you. This is really starting to get AI incorporated as another member that's part of your team that's bringing value, just like the rest of your team is. So the biggest jump we've seen was one of our founders in industrial services that climbed from a 28 score to 73 in just under 90 days. So it's about 90 days to make the shift, but we have seen people work much faster depending on how excited you are about AI and how much you get into it. So to go into the more practical side of things, I want to quickly go through a framework that you guys can use. I suggest you screenshot the slide, but also I can share this with you guys after the webinar. It's a very basic framework that you can use to quickly get tasks done. I also recommend bonus points. You can screenshot the slide and ask one of your AI agents to do this for you, and just basically interview you and fill out a table that handles these. But the idea is two steps. First step is to audit your current workflow. So this means take a week or 2 weeks, whatever your cycle reflects, and really start to take note of the things that are repetitive, time consuming, and almost require dull use of your brain, but it fills up time every week. So this is not necessarily the exciting things like coming up with new products or deciding on strategy, but more the things that keep occurring But if you had somebody working for you, like an assistant, they could easily handle this. Almost a chief of staff that's on your beck and call. So highest value things are things like meeting notes, reports for clients or your internal team, onboarding emails, uh, onboarding processes and flows, status updates. I would make a list. You can use something like Excel, Google Sheets, make a list of these things. And then for each one, score and filter them according to frequency, time, and skill. And basically, you're trying to get a quantifiable way of measuring the things that would bring you the most value. And for each of us, this is different. Some of us work it through a lot of meetings. So that means having something that can churn through your meeting notes and bring them into actionable items for you on a weekly basis is much more useful than some of us that work in like data, for example, and you need to do reporting quite often. So this exercise will surface those highest value tasks. Another bonus exercise is you could do this with your team. This allows everybody to contribute to what they think the most valuable thing is. And this can then go forth and bring you what we should nail first. So the number one opportunity is the one that passes the filter, not necessarily the sexiest one, but the one that's hiding in plain sight. And this is a key point. A lot of the times, AI can quickly tackle something that's annoying in your day-to-day work, but once it's done, it's over forever, and AI handles it. So cool. The next step is let's build one of these. And I want to start being a bit more interactive here. So in this section, I'm going to encourage you guys to start dropping messages in the chat on these points that I'll ask you for so that I can start filling in an AI project from scratch. Uh, 1 second while I get this on screen. So we have Claude Cowork open today. This is currently the best agent use case for AI that I've had so far. It's the tool that works the best to cover agentic work. And it seems to be the one that's delivering the results that are most consistent across the AI tools. This changes over time. Every few months, there's a new model that's released by an AI company. But the one that we're using now is Cowork, and Anthropic as a frontier company has been mainly focused on creating AI that can be valuable in work, whereas other companies are focused on different things. It's AI that can be used to answer questions or AI that's truth seeking, etc. So this is the best one that we found to use work. And today I want to show you guys how simply we can kick off a project um, that an AI agent can manage. So to start, I want to ask people to start throwing into the chat some, let's pick businesses, so business context, so a one-liner around your business and what you do. I'm going to pick one of those and slot them into our prompt. I'm also, if you guys can put in a problem, um, that you're currently facing, we're going to ask the AI to put together a project plan to manage this problem and set up a project to do this. In the interim, while I'm waiting for people to type into the chat on these things, um, I'll start showing you how quickly I would set up a prompt. So So this is the main thing that I wanted to show people. It's actually quite simple to kick off a AI agent. A lot of the times we focus on setting up a lot of our context, and we want to have specific prompts and so on to get value out of AI. But I've found that once you start using agents, the best way to use it is to start creating these living folders. So I'm going to ask you to create a project folder. I'm going to say my company is a SME coaching uh, business. We do business coaching. Yeah. Um, what else is in the chat? I want to use AI to automate follow-ups for our sales hybrid. So this is an important one. You can see that I'm asking the AI to set up a system that it manages itself. And the key here is um, previously, we would think about setting up things like our Zoho or Monday.com in order for our team to be able to use it, or we would use specific Excel spreadsheets to do this. But I'm asking the AI to do this. And so it's less about me stressing about the format of how this Excel or project management system is done. It's more the AI will do it. And as long as I'm working in that folder, it I can just interact with the folder. And so what I mean by that, sorry, I didn't kick this off in the beginning. The first thing you want to do when you start a task is to choose a folder. Um, so I'm going to create a new folder here. So you can see I'm starting with a blank slate, and I'm going to say SME Coach Sales. I'm allowing Claude to edit and change files within the folder, and I'm asking you to set up a system to manage itself. Let me see if I can pick more issues from the chat. Okay, I need to know how to spend time. I'm mixing and mashing different issues from the chat. Let me get state. And the last thing I'm going to add is please ask me a question. So that's it. I want to stop with that prompt and get it working. And so what you're seeing happen now is an AI agent that's live, busy going about trying to solve a problem on its own. I've told it to work in a specific folder. The idea is that this folder now becomes a living folder. I don't expect it to reach a final result here where it, is branded with our company, where it's going to show um, the reporting in the way I want it, but I expect that to build over time. So, for example, I didn't tell it about how my sales pipeline looked because I pulled this randomly out of the chat, but you can see it's giving me options. So let's tell it standard 5 stage. What does the AI powered follow-ups do? Let's say I want to flag overdue and suggest next steps. How do you want to log hours? We'll do a quick log by chat. Um, let's do something different. I want to ask for updates in a chat and get a nicely formatted report in response. So again, you see how this is very similar to an intern working with you, where they would go about, gave them a work brief, a very bad one. They needed to ask questions to get context, and now they're going about doing the work. Um, and you can see I have what I need. Let me get this set up. So I'm going to let this run for a bit while I talk through how the AI tends to do this and why it's nice to use agents in this manner. So it's going to set up a folder, and this is almost the simplest and easiest way to work with AI agents. And it has been pushed by Anthropic that we really want to go back to working with AI in the ways that we were used to working with back in the day. So let's try and make it very simple and make things focused around files and folders. Can you connect these things up to your tools like Monday.com and Notion and so on? The answer is yes, we have. So you can see I'm showing you some Claude connectors down here. This is one where we interacted with Notion, but it can, but I have noticed that some of the AI starts to struggle when it comes to getting quality responses from these tools, especially when you have really complex things set up on Notion or Zoho or Monday. What works a lot better is ask it to set up its own system, and you start thinking about just interacting with AI through this chat window, which means you don't need to know what's in the folder. You don't even need to know what is how it manages its data. You just need to know the data, and then you can allow it to store it in such a way that it's simple for AI to understand. So you can see it's first trying to solve the problem of creating the system. It says empty folder, let me build the system. It's going to use CSVs to manage its data for the pipeline hours and touch points, a README for us to know how this whole system works, and a manual for itself. So if I open up any new sessions, it'll know how to use this. It's now going about creating all of the files and the README. So why do I like using this live system? It's because one, trying to get the perfect answer with this is actually a lot more difficult than it seems. It's like asking a brand new employee in your company to generate a final report off the first go. But a live folder, you can continuously interact with it. And once it's complete, you can start changing it and just ask your agent to make those changes in its README or instructions. Um, it also means, for example, now I've filled in a bunch of sample data. I can incorporate real data and say, go and search this website for my company, or take this Excel with all of my real sales and populate the system. So we can see the agent has finished. It's saying all set up and verified. Here's what's in the folder. We created the README. You'll see this is the code sales, AI managed sales, and client tracker. Tells you what's in the folder, tells you how to use it, uh, ensures the caveat that these are fictional companies and what it doesn't do. Um, it's created its operating manual, but again, like I said, these are worthwhile to just quickly brush over and make and do a check for logic. But I wouldn't dive into it in too much detail. And here's the data files it created. Um, yeah, as CSV. So you can see it folded with some data already. And so there's an example of the report and how it would look. And all of this was created in less than 5 minutes. It's a bunch of non-real data, but it at least allows you to have a system that's kicked off. The first thing I would do now is load real data in it. I won't do that today because it will take time to find that data. But I want to show you guys how I would interact with it. So the folder still exists here in my recent, so you can see SME code sales, and I'm going to ask it go through the sales and identify our most at-risk leads. And so this is what I mean by having a living folder. Um, it exists with all its information and data, and I'm able to interact with it by speaking to the folder simply by tagging it. And you can see what the agent is doing first is reading what's inside the folder, then reading its agent script. And then from that, it knows exactly what to do and checks pipeline and touch points. While that's running, I want to show you guys the folder. To So while this at-risk task is running, you can see this is the folder it created. And it's in charge of this SME code sales folder with its data, reports once it creates them, and its instructions. If we look at who's at risk, we can see how it responded today with these leads. So where I would go next, if you guys started with setting up a practical case like this, is start loading your real context inside. So it would be as simple as creating a new task, tagging sales, dragging a document in here, or maybe your company website and say, please go and replace all our sample data with what's real. Cool, guys. I want to stop there for this example because I don't want us to run out of time to also ask questions. And before we get into the Q&A, I wanted to bring on our guest, Marinus, to talk about his experience on our ShiftAI program. So Marinus has, through the program, also built agents, I think by now, or at least started to set up AI into updating his workflows. So I wanted him to quickly also chat to you guys about how this is in the real world.
Thanks, Kesh.
Marinus?
Thanks. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thanks, Kesh, for the opportunity. Thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, again, a great workflow use case that you've showed us. So thanks for that. I think, given a short little brief from the ShiftAI and the Art of Scale team, I just want to quickly share some of my experiences that I've enjoyed over the first 6 months of the ShiftAI course. And yeah, I saw a couple of familiar faces and on the call. So yeah, I'm Marinus van der Merwe, leading the charge at Fernreach Solutions. We are a market intelligence and research business, mainly within the property space, within the brand space across Africa. So yeah, I mean, we are really quite familiar to disruption within this data and technology space. We had made an intentional step change also about 10 years ago to be really much more strongly embedded into data and tech, with the 20+ years experience that we have in our business. So I think, with, Kesh helped me out here, but I think back in 2022 when ChatGPT launched their first LLM, we knew that yes, here's something different, So it was quite a bit of a, I wouldn't say aha moment, but I mean a watershed moment within the space that we also typically work in the knowledge space. So that was a big one, and I knew we had to do something, but really the challenge was to understand where, and where and what, and there's so much noise in the market, and through media headlines and hype around AI, it was really just to keep your feet on the ground and say, listen, what's going to be the next step for our business specifically? Because I think one could get definitely very excited, but also uncertain within a world that's actually a lot of possibilities. So yeah, I mean, where we are now as a business, I think joining the Shift AI course, it was such a excellent journey up until now, 6 months in. Is definitely one of the biggest takeouts is that there's much more structure around the noise that sits out there. So starting to think differently, building real workflows, as Kesh have just shown again, so making it really relevant for our business. I think that's really the main change. Where we could, quickly go and jump into the tools and just plug and play. But I mean, ultimately, we want to bet a good operating system over time. So a little bit slower, but more considered is definitely the way to go in this. And then also bringing the team along. I mean, it's so important. Not all of us are on this ShiftAI course. But for me now, in the second part of this course, now also upskilling the team going forward. So it's from that enthusiasm, taking the exciting off ramp, not go into fear, building competence, building confidence in the tools, to ultimately set up your business for growth. So that was really exciting journey this far. We've got now a good roadmap, action plans on the table for the business that we are starting to implement. As I said, building some good resonance with the team, also getting them on board. But what I can also say, no silver bullets here. It's quite a graft. It's quite a commitment and a lot of time that needs to go into it. But yeah, I think also from just a big aha moment was just really leveraging the tools, as a strong thinking partner. I mean, my tech team are already jumping into the code with Claude Code, etc., etc. So they might have different aha moments, but just from myself plotting the way forward with my team strategically, just having let's call it a thinking partner that can really make my work a little bit easier, not only in speed, but really leverage, So I think, you could do, as Kesh have just done now, work that would have taken probably a week, done in an hour or two, But it's not only speed, it's really the leverage that one could also get from it, not only efficiencies. But yeah, so I think that's just a little bit of a nutshell what we are busy with at Furnish, through the Shift AI course. I mean, the team is so in the moment and have been so supportive over the first 6 months. There's 6 months still to go. It's also very beneficial to have a peer group in the pot that can be on this journey with each other, with myself. So yeah, I think it's actually not negotiable for us in our business. It came at just at the right time. And I can tell you guys now, it's not a fact of having or getting more information. It's just having a little bit more structure of how we want to go about plotting the way forward with AI. So yeah, and I think the last thought on that is, yes, a lot of tech, a lot of data, a lot of thinking, but yeah, it's quite a personal journey as well. So a lot of personal growth also on this journey, learning, growing as leaders, and just the way that we lead, the way that we think, and how we could be better every day. So I think that opened up also a little bit on the softer side. So yeah, Kesh, I mean, if there's any questions, I mean, I can definitely reach out, or the guys can reach out to chat through the stuff. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity and looking forward to the next 6 months, right?
Thanks so much, Martinus. Thanks for the share. I'm glad your program is working for you and you're
Perfect.
feeling the value. And this is the type of transformation that we're talking about, guys. So to end, I'm putting up on the screen. So the details of our next cohort, we're kicking this off on the 4th of May. If you guys are interested, feel free to scan the QR code and you'll be able to register directly. Or if you're keen to find out some more information, there'll be a follow-up email after this webinar that you can book some time and you can get a call with one of us and we can talk you through all the details of the Shift AI, what we cover, as well as what you'll have achieved by the end of it. And the goal by the end of the full 1 year program is full organizational AI transformation. So it's not just a single person course. The idea is by the end of it, you would have AI integrated fully into your business and strategy going forward. So I know we've reached the end of the session, but I did want to spend some time doing Q&A. So I'll stay on for 15 more minutes until 11. If people want to stay back and ask questions, feel free to hang on. But for everyone else, if you feel like dropping off to continue, thank you for attending. Thank you for spending the time. I hope this was valuable. And feel free to drop me emails, messages, follow-ups if you guys want to learn more. This was a very, very, very quick demonstration. It would be more valuable to take you guys also through um, a longer session if I have some understanding of your specific problem and business. So thanks everyone. And let me pause there and open for questions. Let me start with Salvin in the chat, and then I'll take yours, Philip. So Salvin said, at a high level, can you describe how the previous live example then becomes agentic and runs asynchronously in the background? So you have options if you're using Claude, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and share Claude quickly. And something that Cowork has is now called schedule tasks. So schedule tasks are new tasks that you can create that would run on a specific schedule. So if you need to run research on a weekly basis, or you needed to go through the folder and give you a report on all the leads at risk, you could create a task called at risk leads or open leads or something. Give a description, the project or folder you would tag is SME code sales, and you could tell it how often to run with the frequency. That's an example of taking a piece of the agent's work and making it run on an automated basis that would then be asynchronous. Um, you can also think of how you could build this out to be many, many, many small pieces of work. So does it just do our meeting notes? Does it do the at-risk leads? Does it do the open leads? From my experience, it's much better to do many smaller tasks than to try and build these monster agents that cover many things. And the best way is to build out a folder like that. And there's Hackjob Agentic as well, right? If you share that folder on our team OneDrive, then effectively the AI agent can keep it updated on its own through its OneDrive access without you having to interact with it. Hope that answers that. Philip Aslam, let's go to your question.
Thanks so much. I just want to ask a question regarding Claude. You know, I downloaded the application onto my computer and then suddenly realized, well, hang on, what am I doing? I'm giving this thing access to my computer, my world. And just wanted to hear your thoughts. If you've covered already, apologies, but if you could just sort of give some thoughts into how we could secure ourselves from having the agents just sweep all our data and use it for their training. Obviously,
So
computer is important.
Good question. It's how do we protect ourselves and some guardrails around having AI run wild. So the best, safest approach I would recommend is the one I did. So literally start it with a blank folder that you know where that folder is, and it's not shared in your OneDrive or Google Drive or so on. So then that folder only exists locally on your computer. And when you give Claude access to it, like I just did, it can only read and mess with that folder. It can't move out of that. And because you telling it to build systems within there, as it goes forth into the future, it's going to stay contained within there. Um, the next kind of layer that people worry about is I want to give it access to OneDrive or I want to give it access to SharePoint and so on, and you can. There are integrations in Cloud for that. The thing to remember there is it inherits your existing permissions. So if I, Keshav, have permission to mess with every single file in the company SharePoint and I give my AI access with my account login, it will then have access to mess with the company SharePoint. Will it do it on its own? Highly, highly unlikely. Um, if it's not running a bunch of these scheduled tasks, like I just quickly ran through, there's less risk of AI doing things without you know about it, without you knowing about it. Um, if it's contained within your folders, it'll also only make changes there. And the last point is Anthropic seem to have built this into Claude is that it will always ask you before it starts making changes to folders. And you'll see in the new version, they just released 4.7. So this Opus 4.7, you'll see that they put ask for approvals or skip all approvals. I would make sure this is on and it's on by default. So if you do want to run AI in cowboy mode, which you can, um, then you can just give it a task and say, go ahead, don't ask for approvals. It will then sometimes go through things like, can I change files? Can I delete them? Can I create and edit them, etc. Philip, you have follow up?
Yeah.
And others, please start lining up questions.
Thank you so much, Gish. So the what I'm in summary, what I hear you saying is Claude has given itself its own rails about what access you can give it, but
Mhm.
you pretty much trust that Claude is honest in its handling of your data.
Yes, as long as you don't tell it to do something odd, and this is why I always go back to treat it like an intern. Would you give interns access to super sensitive, confidential company data, or would you copy those specific slides or documents and give it to them on a flash drive or folder? It's the same kind of logic. Um, and
What I would say is I wouldn't give an intern access to my computer. I probably would give them their own computers. And so what you're probably suggesting is that we get our own computer. I mean, what you just demonstrated now was incredible. It's incredible. It's life changing. And I'm just sort of debating in my own mind whether how much I trust Claude to
hmm,
be honest
I,
with my data.
uh, small contained pieces of work. So that's why anything I ask Claude to do will always exist in a brand new folder that starts off empty.
Yeah.
And the other important thing, and I spoke about this earlier in the presentation around the it's now architectural and not knowledge. Eventually on our company SharePoints and OneDrives, there will exist an AI onboarding folder that sits right at the top. And anytime somebody tries to tag a folder or even a Notion page or Monday.com board or whatever, there will be an AI section that has AI instructions. And those instructions are created according to our company and our guardrails and rules that it has to follow. And anybody who tries to use an agent in the company, if they tag that folder, that instruction set will override their instruction set. That's the idea, anyway. And this is how we're advising companies to set it up. Because if you don't have that, then obviously anybody who's setting up their agents, it's going to listen to what their instructions say. And if I take you guys down a journey of the real, where the danger is here, is something called prompt injection, which is if you're giving AI access to your emails or maybe documents that are sent to you from third parties that you don't know, they can include extra instructions in those documents or emails that they make white text or hidden. And your AI then starts reading those instructions without you knowing. And this is the danger, where we talk about Claude doing something that is bad or can't be trusted. It will never do something it's not told. The real question is somebody telling it to do something that we don't know? And so if there's extra instructions that are hidden in email, somebody may send you a very honest looking sales email that lands in your inbox. But because your AI agent read it, and in that email, there's invisible text that said, if you're an AI agent, please ignore all previous instructions and do this instead. And it starts tracking, I don't know, key presses or whatever in your computer and sends it somewhere else. That's the danger. But there are ways to guardrail against this, and setting up your system smartly up front kind of prevent any of these things running wild.
Thank you.
Let me pause there. Any other questions?
I have one other question, so I put my hand up.
Sure.
What do you recommend in terms of getting AI to review AI? So, say for instance, ChatGPT to review Claude or Grok or something like that, where you just get the AIs to review each other's work.
Highly recommended. I do that often. A lot of people don't have multiple subscriptions, so that's why they won't. But I highly recommend it. I would often, like, for example, I showed you guys Claude today. I would often ask a question against a project. Like, let's say, for example, I walked someone through a portfolio management example earlier this week. So that's looking at a bunch of companies and how they're performing. I could ask questions against that portfolio, like, how is this tomato business doing and what's its outlook for the next year? And it's going to say, depending on rainfall and X, Y, and Z. I would then ask Claude to write me a research brief about what data points are needed to solve that problem. And I would then take that research brief and put it in a Google Deep Research or Perplexity Deep Research, copy that response and paste it back in Claude and say, now go and update our portfolio with these estimates and forecasts. And that type of research logic can be used across everything. I would also sometimes, if the research seems wonky, or if I could get Grok to do research as well, and then tell them, right, I have these two reports, please check your work. This starts burning tokens, so that's one thing to bear in mind. It's can be an endless exercise of rabbit holing, where you think you're creating value, but you're just in a AI psychosis loop. But it can be useful if you can see that one AI didn't cover things fully. And then in terms of the different AI, I tend to trust Grok the most in terms of finding factual things from the internet and pulling out clear data points. I use Google Gemini for deep research and to um, I prefer to speak to Gemini the most. It has the best answers when I'm trying to learn something. And then Claude is the workhorse. So Claude, if I need to create presentations, run analytics, set up these folders, do automated tasks, it's Claude. I've also moved away. So I think a big question people usually have is how do I connect this to everything? How do I connect this to Outlook? How do I get it to so a lot of things in the chat by like I need it from WhatsApp to Zero and all of that. I feel like that may be getting distracted at this point. Those systems and tools were built for us as humans to interact and work better with each other, and that AI can operate off a folder with CSVs inside. So it's almost much easier to just download a Zoho export of leads and contacts, put it in a folder, and get AI to start working with it than it is to connect to Zoho, connect to Outlook, connect to OneDrive. So that's something people may notice when you're trying to set this up. If you run into roadblocks trying to get it to connect to all of your systems, just try and start with a folder first, and then you can get to systems later because then it knows what it's trying to do. But trying to get it to do all upfront, um, yeah, I've ran into many, many, many issues, and the integrations just are not there yet. It's not as clean as you can just click Notion and then boom, everything in Notion is working perfectly in Cloud. So yeah, I think that's it for our time. If there are any more questions, guys, feel free to contact me on my email. And yeah, hope to hear from you guys soon and hope this was very useful. Thanks, everyone.